What's up guys, Ollie Effect here, back at it again with another video. And for today's video, we're going to do a 4K review of the new Blade Steelbook Walmart exclusive that just came out, and it's a really awesome one. I'm pretty excited. This is one of my favorite movies when I used to be a child. I used to love watching this movie. I was really excited to pick it up when I heard that Walmart was doing a special release. But before we get into that, I want to go ahead and just open up the Steelbook, get some shots and some close-ups for you guys so you can see how the Steelbook looks. But before we get into the 4K review, I want to go ahead and open up the Steelbook, give you some close-ups, and just kind of give you an idea of what this bad boy looks like. Now, I did say bad boy, and honestly, this is more of your standard 4K, I would say, when it comes to Steelbook. Not a lot going on. Kind of has like a matte finish. It's not really glossy or anything like that, but I think it's still pretty nice. Right here, here's the front. You got Wesley Snipes holding his iconic blade, and then you have Wesley Snipes and Blade and Stephen Dorff at the bottom. I don't really necessarily like when they put text on the front of Steelbooks. I feel like it makes them look a little bit less cool, but there you go anyways. It is right here, and he has a nice little highlight around his skin and stuff. It looks pretty nice. We'll over here go to the spine. You just got Blade, nothing too crazy. I got a little dent right here, but that's all right. And yeah, it's just black and it says Warner Brothers. We're gonna flip it, and this part I actually like a lot. Now, when we flip it to the back, I actually kind of like this a lot. When this movie came out a long time ago and you had the DVD, I do believe this was the picture and background that they used on the DVD. So it kind of gave me some nostalgia. I like the little tribal tattoo that's on there and stuff. It just shoots me back to when this movie first came out. Now, I don't like the text that they have at the bottom, honestly. Again, I like more of like a clean Steelbook of just art, but that's basically what you get. Kind of a basic Steelbook, honestly. I would not recommend if you're just buying it just to have Steelbooks, because there's definitely cooler Steelbooks out there, and I wouldn't say this is worth it, but I pretty much had to get it because I love Blade. And once you open it up inside, you have just a shot of Blade fighting Frost. Nothing too crazy. Again, they didn't do anything too crazy with this Steelbook, but I just had to have it because I love Blade. But yeah, that's what you get inside the Steelbook. Nothing too crazy. But yeah, that's what the Blade Steelbook looks like up close. Kind of underwhelming, but you know what's not underwhelming is this 4K. This is an amazing 4K. So when I put this movie in my Blu-ray player, I was pleasantly surprised on just how sharp and crisp this movie is. It is a 4K intermediate, but for some reason I expected some noise, some grain. There is not a hint of that. This is just all around a razor sharp disc. I really was impressed with how crispy every single thing was. There's a lot of standout moments when it comes to crispiness. The very beginning at the blood rave, you can see just every single drop of blood. Everyone looks super shiny and wet, and then they have like crowds of vampires kind of reaching out and doing things. You can make out every single vampire, and it just gave the overall scene a more scarier vibe, because when you first see it, I feel like when you watch it like DVD or Blu-ray, you know, you see the hands and everything, but you just don't see the separation of all the different bodies and things like that. I feel like that's something that you pick up on the 4K. It just made the scene like way more scarier than I remember. I don't know if it was because the blood was popping more, but I think it was because I could just really make out all the different vampires in that situation. Blade's costume looks really good. He is always wearing like a leather trench coat for the most part, and you can really see all the fine detail in the leather. If you look really closely on leather, you know, you can see like a small little pattern, and you can see that in this movie just like when he's talking. You can look at his freaking jacket and it looks super crispy. You can see every little detail in that leather. His skin, the pores. Blade does tend to sweat a lot in this movie, and they look great. You can see the pores, you can see individual sweat beads, you can see just every little nook and cranny when it comes to skin. The detail and the background of these environments come to life more, I would say. When I used to watch this movie and you would see the background, it just kind of bleeds into the background. You don't really like pay attention. When you get into Whistler's little layer, all the things in the background, you can really make out what they are now, and it kind of just brings new life to some of these backgrounds and environments that they had. Night scenes look really good. You're gonna get a handful of night scenes where Blade's in his car and he's driving around and you can see the city. There's like zero noise in these scenes. You can see all the detail in the shadow. Everything's super crispy and it looks really good. Some of the CGI when he's driving looks a little funky, and they do some things where they speed up the car just by like fast forwarding it, I guess. Those look a little funky, but when it comes for picture quality, super great night scenes. There was always a part in this movie that always just had way too much bloom and the highlights were super overexposed, and it's when Blade is meeting Frost outside for the first time and he has like the little girl. That scene, I remember watching it being like, man, why does it look so like super bright and ugly and just has like this really dark like blue tone color grade to it. Completely changing the scene. Everything's dialed back a little bit. It looks more natural. You do still have like this blue color grade, but it's so subdued and natural that it looks really good. And I just kind of saw that scene in a whole new way when I saw this, and I immediately noticed just how much of a difference when it came to the color grade that they did in this movie. It used to be just too much, and now it's just perfect. Now, the color grade doesn't really have a lot of HDR standout moments because this is a lot of dark grays and dark blues. Most of the HDR is going to be in the night scenes or in shadow detail and stuff like that. That's where you're really going to get a lot bang for your buck in the shadow detail. I would say the only things that really pop when it comes to HDR are going to be anything with blood. The blood's really red, really saturated, looks really good and wet. There's good and wet. There's also, you know, when there's like gory things happening, people are getting arms cut off or like bitten, or they're shining lights on vampires and like their skin's peeling off. Those look really, really good, and it definitely adds a layer of detail when it comes to the HDR color, and then also just the detail in general where you can see all the prosthetics and stuff that they use in the movie. Looks really, really good. Now, the CGI in this movie honestly isn't that bad. I know Blade is kind of known for having some pretty terrible CGI because they kind of just went all out. They're like, screw it, it's the 90s, we're gonna shoot this out and just hopefully it looks good. Honestly, the CGI holds up pretty good. There's not a lot of moments where you see Blade in full body CG like it is in the second one. I didn't really get too many video game moments that I would normally get with the Blade, but there is one particular scene where a vampire is getting hit by sun and he basically blows up. OMG, dude. That scene looks a little rough. It looks like they weren't able to kind of remaster the CGI on that part, and it instantly goes from like a 4K quality to like easily like a 1080p. And I know 1080p is not that bad, but when you've been looking at this razor sharp disc on 4K and this scene pops up, it's like, oh, it's real noticeable. But again, I don't think it was really done on purpose. I think it was more so done because they couldn't re-render this out in 4K and make that scene 4K as well, or at least close to it. But that part really stands out as a weird kind of transition to old-timey effects, I would say, special effects. Besides that, a lot of the special effects really retain a lot of crispiness when Frost gets hit with like the shots and he kind of blows up into this little bubble kind of vampire before he explodes. That looks really, really crazy. It kind of looks like the stuff you would spray on a wall, basically, to fill up like holes and stuff, and like, you know, I don't know. It's like marshmallowy. I don't know what to call that, but it looks really, really good. It's actually really noticeably crispy on that part, which was kind of weird because it's CGI, and I felt like it should have looked a little uglier. But most of the CGI in here actually looks really, really good. And just that one standout scene that looks a little funky. So for the audio, we have a Dolby Atmos mix that is new to this release, and honestly, it sounds super, super good. It's super loud. The clarity on it, you can hear every little ruffle of a sweater or a trench coat. You can hear every click clack on people's heels, and you can just get an overall atmospheric kind of feel for this movie. It fills the whole living room, like I usually say when a mix is really good, and that just means that if you feel like the sound's all around you in the whole living room. There's certain standout scenes where when Blade is riding in a car and he's like circling around the building, you can hear him circling around the building, and it's super loud and like intimidating. Some of the music scenes where they have like, you know, like the old school kind of 90s techno kind of in the background when he's fighting vampires didn't hit as hard as I thought they would, but maybe that's just because like the type of songs that they were. But overall, the audio is super good. I really welcome this new Dolby Atmos mix. It's really immersive, super crispy, and just overall a really, really nice experience when it comes to the Dolby Atmos. It sounds like a completely new movie, and it sounds really, really good. So overall, guys, the Blade on 4K looks amazing. One of my new favorite 4Ks that I got. It's basically, you know, it's shot in the 90s, and you would think that it would look ugly, but honestly, it looks really, really good. Everything's razor sharp, super crispy. The color grade is fixed. It looks way better than it used to. It's just a really, really good 4K, guys. My overall opinion is, if you haven't picked this up and you love Blade, definitely pick it up. The Steelbook is kind of underwhelming, but the picture quality and the sound quality completely make up for it. And honestly, if this was just a slipcover, I would have still picked it up.